Aloha everybody, this is Kai Waza. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a Hawaiian record collection video update of new acquisitions to my Hawaiian South Pacific Exotica record collection, which you see just about half of behind you. There's another shelf over here full of records, Hawaiian and Exotica. So these are records that I have acquired since the last update video. I'm not getting them, a million at a time now because I have so much. I have really almost everything that was released in Hawaii, and most of what I'm getting nowadays is coming from overseas, other countries, or something really obscure that was done here or in the United States, mainland, in Hawaiian music. But let's look at my recent acquisitions. This one, I've not really seen until recently, and then I've seen it a couple of times and it's been sort of expensive, and I was like, I don't know, I think I'm gonna wait until I get a somewhat better deal on it. So I did finally get a kind of a decent deal on it and got it, and I'm glad I did. Interestingly, I should say, on this particular episode that we're dealing with the records I'm showing you today, I have very little to no information about any of the artists. They all are fairly obscure artists that I am not really able to find much information on. Okay, so first record here, very Hawaiian. If you like, for real Hawaiian kind of music, very nice Hawaiian album. Abe and Ann K. Dudoit and Manae is both the name of the artists and the album. There's no date on this, but it's pretty clearly, I would say, from the 80s. These two, Abe and Ann Dudoit, were also members of, the only other recording I can find from them or information about them was a recording from the 70s that I have, called Aloha Molokai, when they were members of the group, the Molokai Trio. Very nice record, live recording at the, whatever it's called, Molokai Hotel. I think there was only one or two on Molokai. And they were performers there, as were the two of them. Abe and Ann Dudoit says they were, they're from Molokai, born and raised. The Dudoit clan, that name, is kind of familiar to Molokai, Dudoit. There are a lot of Dudoits on Molokai. Not a lot of people on Molokai, anyway. I mean, it's not like there's thousands of them, but and they were performing at the Hotel Molokai. Their backup band here, Manae, is actually, their son is a member of it, but they were at the time of this recording appearing and performing on the Volcano Isle, or the Orchid Isle, big island of Hawaii at the Kona Village. These guys were at the Hotel Molokai. But I enjoyed this record a lot. Fun Records of Molokai, Hawaii. It was recorded in Kona, Kailua Kona, because there wouldn't really be recording facilities on Molokai. It's very small island, very small. So anyway, really enjoyed this album. If you like sort of a traditional and hapahauli kind of old school Hawaiian music, this is very much nice, very much like that. Nice production, and I enjoyed this record quite a bit.
Melodies rare has never been heard in Hawaii. Strange it seems that melody dreams come true.
Alrighty, now next up I have not a vinyl record, but a compact disc that I picked up recently. It's from 2006. Not exactly vintage, doesn't quite fit the definition of vintage, but it will in just another couple of years, 2-3 years, right? But I picked this one up because it's a production music or library music CD. If you don't know, I really love production music. If you're not familiar with what that is, there were these record companies that would produce music not to be broadcast on the air, to be like hit songs or on easy listening stations or whatever. They didn't create this music, was not to be, in fact, I don't think when they were originally made, you even were allowed to just play it on the air as a song. But it was specifically made as what they call library music or production music, which was sold to radio stations, TV stations, film, different kinds of media to use in their production. So example, if you were filming a documentary or you're doing a travel documentary about Hawaii or something, and you're the filming's done and you're like, okay, now we need some music, and you're like, oh my gosh, do we have to like hire composers and musicians and create some kind of soundtrack for this? No, you don't. All you have to do is go through one of these production companies, and they will have music that's that you have the legal right to. You don't have to get the permission or whatever to use for productions, commercials, whatever. There's a lot of production music that was used in films. You've heard plenty, even as a younger person today, you've heard production music. You may not realize it in some films that wasn't really composed for that film, that they used stock production music from these companies. This CD, what did I say, 2006, from 2006, it's from Wolfe Music, which is the oldest production music company in the world. In fact, they were the first. They opened in 1909. They started recording music in 1927, and they are still around today. Although they did vinyl records, then they did CDs. Now it's just distributed digitally or whatever. But one of the CDs here, it's called, the reason I'm interested in it particularly is the South Pacific and Hawaii. Now, there's another production record that I love dearly that maybe some of you are familiar with, and I had to check and make sure before I bought this thing, because it wasn't no dollar record bin thing, that it wasn't the same, and it isn't, as this rather well-known production album called Hawaii and South Pacific. This one's called the South Pacific and Hawaii. This one is Hawaii and South Pacific on Selected Sounds out of Germany. Love this one. This is music, this is for 1980, I think, 85. And a lot of the music on this CD, if you listen to the early seasons of SpongeBob SquarePants, you will hear all of these songs being used in the early SpongeBob SquarePants. This is not that recording. Thankfully, it's a different one. Fascinating. A lot of music on this one, 31 selections, plus, in addition to the 31 full-length selections, there are basically between 30 and 60-second versions of all of the selections as well. Why did they do that? They did that so that if you were doing a 30-second commercial, you didn't have to take some 2-minute song, edit it, and figure out what part to use or whatever. You just used the 30-second version. It was your music bed for the commercial. You know, Hawaiian luau days at Lowe's Market, that sort of thing. So I wanted to point out how this and most all of these production CDs or record albums kind of work. On the inside, it's very interesting. Of course, there's the titles of the songs, and you'll realize there's 1, 2, and 3 different versions of some of the songs. Then there's usually a description of what they are. Number 1 here we see contented Maori feel with quattro woodblock and uli uli mid-tempo. And they give you the length, 125. There's also a 32-second version of it for doing like a 30-second commercial. And then they list the individual composers of all these different works, because they are all done whatever on contract or whatever for these production and library recordings. But very interesting how that's all works out, and they give you the descriptions of them. Interesting one too, because it isn't really just Hawaiian. There is some on this one they really did try and do some sort of Melanesian, some different areas of the Pacific music that is influenced by theirs. This is not like authentic folk music or anything like that by far. It's totally like in your mind, you know, resort sort of music, but has Melanesian and other Pacific Island influences other than just Hawaii on it. Really an enjoyable CD. There are a couple tracks on here, but just a couple, by Keith Papworth, one of the composers, and those had been previously released on this album right here, which I have. Keith Papworth, this is also a production album, but they only use, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 or something from this that are on this CD, and the rest of the 30-something tracks are all like new stuff in 2006, I guess. I love production music. I just love it. So this CD, get you a closer look here. Very interesting for me. Wolfe, this company was one of the largest producers of production music, library music in history. Just go on like Discogs or go on eBay and see what's listed under Wolfe, and it just kind of it's mind-blowing how much music these companies did that I'm sure so much of what we heard in the past in terms of radio commercials we were listening to in our hometowns, or documentaries and different sort of films, was all music from production records, and I love them. I love the easy listening production. In the 90s, during the kind of loungecore sort of revival thing that was going on in the 90s, and CDs were popular, of course, at that time, there were a number of companies that put together compilations of different production music that was used in a lot of films, like Italian films and different kinds of like sort of overly sexy sort of things, or just weird like shopping mall music kind of. There were quite a few CDs that were put out in the 90s, if you want to, because it's hard to track down some of these records now, the vinyl, and it's pretty expensive. At the time, I wish I had bought a lot more of those CDs, because quite a few were put out, and I wasn't as into it then as I am now, so I didn't buy as much of it. Because now a lot of those CDs, they're out there. You look them up on, you know, wherever you buy things, and those kind of CDs of compilations of production music from different weird, you know, Italian, German films and horror films and shopping mall music and stuff. They're out there, but they're pretty expensive, a lot of them now. You don't find them very cheaply. I just got a set that was pretty cheap. It's not, well, it's not Hawaiian, so I didn't show it. But anyway, yeah, you can check out I love production music. It's a whole other area. If you're not into it, you can check it out. I mean, it's kind of interesting. And now we have a whole bunch of records. Five records I think I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 records by the same group. Now, I already have a couple of them. They're an Italian group. And I wish I knew more about them. Let me pull another record I want to show you while we're talking about them.
Greetings from the archipelago, everyone. Won't you join me on the online radio station that plays an absolutely huge variety of vintage Hawaiian exotica records and out-of-print CDs? You've never heard anything quite like it. It's called Hawaiian HiFi Radio on Live365.com. Amongst all the beautiful instrumental steel guitar, dreamy orchestral music, you'll also hear noted Hawaiian vocalists such as Charles Kaleolani, Llewellyn Davis right here, and many others. Won't you join me? Let's have a Mai Tai, a pina colada, a tropical itch, or, just some pineapple juice or something. But tune in to Hawaiian HiFi Radio on Live365.com. Just click on the link and it will take you directly there. It's absolutely free, an entire radio station culled from a personal collection of vintage Hawaiian vinyl. You'll love it. Just check it out. Click on the link below.
Sorry about that. I forgot to pull a couple of records there. Anyway, so this group is called John and Jerry and their Hawaiian guitars. Now, we have talked on this subject before, but there was a very popular in the late 50s, I think, into the earlier part of the 60s, and then their career continued in Europe for quite a long time. But there was a group called, two brothers called Santo and Johnny Farina. They had a gigantic hit with the song Sleepwalk. They played steel guitar and electric guitar. Huge hit with Sleepwalk. And then they had some other, more minor hits, but their records sold very well. The record album sold very well. They did quite a few in the United States, and then they continued on in Europe into the 70s and did more. So a long career for them. That's these guys here, very well known. Santo and Johnny, that's them. I mean, they did a couple Hawaiian albums, Hawaiian theme, but most of their music not Hawaiian theme, but it's Hawaiian steel guitar. Love it. This actually is my favorite record of theirs, by the way, if you ever come across it. Love it. It's all sort of nautical themes, and it's just, it gives me chicken skin, this record. Anyway, so Santo and Johnny, like Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and like any other group that became sort of worldwide popular, there were imitation groups that sprang up all over the place, and there are quite a number. Dan and Dale especially comes to mind. The Sleepwalk guitars of Dan and Dale on Diplomat Records, a budget company. But there were many imitation groups of Santo and Johnny, and one of them was this Italian group called John and Jerry and their Hawaiian guitars. Why'd they use that name? I don't know. John, probably because Santo and Johnny, one of the brothers was John. Jerry, I don't know, maybe because Jerry Bird was a very famous Hawaiian steel guitarist in country music. Maybe they wanted to use that hint or get the idea in your head that that's who this was. John and Jerry and their Hawaiian guitars. I had volume 1 and volume 3 for a long time. I've had those two, and then I picked up volume 2 a while ago, and I thought I want to get, if I ever see, I know they have at least 9 volumes that they did kind of all in a row. Like, I would love to have more of them. I would love to have all of them eventually, but they're Italian records. They really only show up like on Discogs or somewhere in Italy that you would have to get them from. So postage is really high, and they're pretty expensive, even though, they're not necessarily sought after. They are rare. But somebody had 4 of them, and I contacted them about doing reduced shipping if I got all 4. And they actually said they had another one they hadn't listed yet, which I didn't have. So I ended up, and we, wheeled and dealed a little bit. And I got all 5 of them. So now I think I'm just missing volume 9 is what I don't have. But I got volumes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Interestingly, they all have the same picture. They all have the same artwork. They just changed the coloring of the background, but the artwork is the same on all of them. And I will preface it also by saying they're not actually that good. They're probably the weakest of the Santo and Johnny imitation groups, actually. But because it's just a Hawaiian steel guitar. It's an electric guitar, and then it's a very small combo, like an organ or an accordion or something. It's a very small combo on all of the records. It's the same group, and they're just covering. They're not Hawaiian albums, you know, technically speaking at all, but it's Hawaiian guitar, and they're covering pop songs and European pop songs and film themes and whatever. And they were doing them in rapid succession. I mean, these records are like, some of them I think like 1967, 1968. There's like 2 that came out in 68, and then 69, and maybe 2 that came out in 67. Like, they just rapid succession, they were doing them. And in case you ever run across this other group somewhere, which I have many of their recordings, it's a group called the Coconados, also out of Italy. Be forewarned that the Coconados and John and Jerry and their Hawaiian guitars are exactly the same group. Exactly the same musicians. I'm telling you, there's no difference between the performers, the arrangers, nothing. It's exactly the same. Sometimes they do some of the same songs, not that often, but it's not the same version of it. They do, you know, recording as the Coconados and recording as John and Jerry. They're separate recordings, different arrangements, but it's exactly the same musicians. I do have quite a few records from the Coconados as well, which is just Italian for the coconuts. But I like saying Coconados, the Coconados. Again, they're not doing, they didn't even do one Hawaiian album. It's not Hawaiian songs, but love the covers. But it's all, you know, Hawaiian guitars covering pop and movie films and things like that. So let's take a look at these volumes 4 through 8 that I got. I'm not going to talk about them individually. I'm just going to show you the covers, and you'll hear some samples. But like I said, the music, the groups are all the same and all very, very similar. But John and Jerry and their Hawaiian guitars, volume 4. There you go. So like I said, the only one I know for sure that's out there that I don't have is a volume 9, and I'll get it one day, but I'm not going to pay a fortune for it because, you know, this is not the greatest music in the world or whatever, but I'm happy to have it in the collection, and happy to share some music with it, both on this channel and on my Hawaiian radio station, Hawaiian HiFi. We do play music from John and Jerry and the Coconados, as well as Santo and Johnny and their many imitators, because it's Hawaiian steel guitar. Final find today. I had this record already, and I've seen it reissued many times. It quite often comes in a booklet. It's been issued standalone, but it's also been issued with a booklet that's like a tour of the islands and has places for you to write your memories and stick your photographs and pictures of the islands. But the album is Enchanted Isle, or not Enchanted Isle, Honeymoon in Hawaii by the Hilo Hawaiians, Bunny Brown's group from the Big Island, rather well known. They did a lot of recordings, several recordings on Decca Records. That's them right there. very nice, some falsetto singing, beautiful group singing, very nice traditional and hapa kind of Hawaiian music. I don't know how, but this particular record, this Honeymoon in Hawaii record, got connected with Hawaii Host Tourists, like a tour company, and they apparently sold copies or were giving copies or whatever of this record with this booklet to different groups as maybe part of their package or something, or they could buy it. I don't really know what the circumstances were, and I've seen that many times, but this is the first time I've seen this particular edition of it that highlights not only the different islands that the normally it comes with, but it has a whole section that the other one doesn't, which is from I do not know the story. I wish I knew the story of it, but it's about the Hilton Hawaiian village we see here in its earlier stages. From the Fritz B. Burns family, sends season's greetings. Now this is a sticker on here, so they stuck that on there. I don't know if there's something under it or whatever. Fritz Burns was the vice chairman of the Hilton Hotel Corporation. He lived both in Los Angeles and in Honolulu, back and forth, and he's really, I think, was one of the main developers of the Hilton Hawaiian Village, which is still around today. I live not far from it. But this, when this picture was taken, when this came out, something new was the new Village Bazaar. They're calling it New Village Bazaar, which is this area here. It's still there, although I don't know when they changed the name, probably fairly early on, because I have always known it as the Rainbow Bazaar, it's called. It has like a reconstruction of an ancient Asian temple, and it's a very exotic setting. It's just stores, right? Shops, whatever, little restaurants and shops. But it's very lovely to walk through. It's very, tropical, and there's bamboo and all this sort of the Asian architecture things. Very exotic, very nice. Still there. I walk through it, go and have coffee, sometimes. Very nice place. But that's when this came out. But let's take a look inside of this this gatefold, because there's quite a bit of stuff in here. So let's take a look inside of this one, this gatefold. Talks about the Hilton, different from the other releases of this. Talks about Kona Hilton, Maui Hilton. And then there's a fold out. This is, blank, but it's a fold out, and it's a fold out on two sides. So they're giving you this very panoramic view of the island of Oahu and Honolulu, basically, is what this is. Yeah, folds back in. And then there's a lovely picture of the Hilton Hawaiian Village as it was. It's different. I would say today in 2023, it's, radically different. I don't know. The lagoon's really nice, much nicer today than it used to be. They recently, several years back, made a filtration system, and it's seawater, but it rotates the seawater in and out on a regular basis all the time, so it's always flowing in and out. It's not stagnant as it kind of used to be, so it's much more swimmable now. There's paddle surfing and little paddle boats and stuff. This stuff's no longer here, and I think there's at least one or two, three. There's like another tower over here, another one over there, and maybe another one on top of this. But so it's grown, larger, but it's still actually very lush and tropical and all of that. The Rainbow Bazaar is there, the shops are there. It's still a very nice, lush area to walk around in. And then after that, it pretty much proceeds as the other releases of this booklet have, which is just they go through each island with some photographs. There's some geography, nice little map here. I like these kind of maps. Some history things. This is from the Wax Museum that I never saw. I moved here in 1981 and I think it was gone at that point. I know the building where it was located, the building is still standing, although it has different occupants now. But I don't think it was the Wax Museum even when I moved here in 81. Some of the rulers of the islands during the monarchy time. What you should bring to wear in Hawaii? Well, basically they tell you an empty suitcase, because you're going to want to buy all the fabulous resort wear like this that you'll find. Still true today. And then it just goes through each of the islands. I love these maps. Have the illustrations of the different attractions. There's a space to put your memories of your trip to that island and glue in some photographs if you want to. Molokai, Lanai. Lanai is actually the one island, well, other than Ni'ihau. You have to have permission to go to Ni'ihau. It's privately owned, but Lanai, I think Lanai is actually privately owned now, but you don't need permission to go there. But Lanai is the other island I have not yet been to. Used to be all pineapple fields, but not anymore. And I need to go. I haven't been there yet. And as for the record itself, the Hilo Hawaiians, well-known group, they recorded on Decca, did several albums for Decca. This album, I think, originally on Decca, I'm not sure. Honeymoon in Hawaii is the name of the album, and this is Hawaii Hosts, which is like a tour company.
Oh, paradise, with all your magic spell, wherein there lies the joy.
As I said, this was released as a standalone album by itself, and then by this Hawaii Host Tour Company or whatever under a few different releases with various versions of this booklet here. So yeah, kind of a unique release of this particular album that I have never come across before. Season's Greeting from the Fritz B. Burns, celebrating the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Honeymoon in Hawaii by the Hilo Hawaiians. Yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the notification button if you want to be notified as soon as I upload something. And leave your comments below. I love to hear your comments, thoughts, whatever. If you have any experience with any of these albums or artists or related topics, whatever, I'm interested to hear from you. Also, don't forget you can hear selections from these albums and literally 1,000 more records. A couple thousand, actually, more records on my online internet Hawaiian radio station called Hawaiian HiFi on live365.com, which you can just Google, or you can click on the link below and listen to that anytime, 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's free to listen to. Thanks a lot, and we will check you in the next video, which will probably be, I don't know, either another Q&A, or we might be up to doing another cheap lounge or something. We'll see. All right, talk to you guys later.